He's back in the hot seat once again. Our business editor Owen Fairclough here. A very strong start to the week on the Asian markets. Anticipation building for a big money move by the ECB.
They're all warmed up, Stuart. They're ready to go. Very different picture compared to this time last week with the European markets all opening up around 0.5%. Just worth noting as well, Spanish GDP figures just in this morning as well. The economy in Spain down nearly 0.5% in the last quarter compared to the previous quarter, and that's 1% compared to a year earlier, so illustrating just how fast Spain has been falling of late. That said, the Asian markets, as Stuart was saying, had a good start to the week with the Nikkei 1.5% up. The Hang Seng 1.5% up, and the Nikkei around 0.8% up. So what's going on? Well, essentially over the weekend, European leaders have been making some subtle, some not so subtle noises about what the European Central Bank might be able to do to help reduce Spain and Italy's soaring borrowing costs. Now, there are some various options on the table, some of which we've seen before. One option, for example, could be for the ECB to resume buying up the debts of countries like Spain, like Italy and Greece, which it has done in the past. The problem is many Eurozone leaders, in particular Germany, don't like that kind of move. They think that the ECB is effectively becoming a stooge of these countries. It's politicising the ECB when it really should just be lending to banks rather than countries. We could have a third, what's known as a big bazooka moment. You might remember that in the last 6 months or so, the ECB has unleashed around €1 trillion of cheap credit on the banks for them to buy up the debts of countries like Spain. The idea to reduce their borrowing costs. The other one is to give the European Bailout Fund in its latest incarnation a banking licence so that it could directly lend to the Eurozone banks.
Nothing's ever easy in this, is it? That last option there you mentioned, very complicated, isn't it?
It is. It's very sensitive. And that last option of giving the Bailout Fund a banking licence is particularly sensitive when it comes to the Germans. That partly explains why Timothy Geithner, the US Treasury Secretary, is meeting the German Finance Minister Wolfgang Schäuble today, essentially just to try and soothe those German fears. The Germans, of course, want a little bit more reform first. They want to see countries like Spain actually reform their economies, bring their borrowing down before you start giving banking licences to bailout funds and so on. They think that if you give them too much help, it's essentially letting them off the hook and not putting those reforms in place. We'll get a few more answers to this on Thursday when the European Central Bank meets for its Governing Council. That's when we expect a big announcement, if there is indeed a big announcement, but it really is down to the ECB now.
OK, we shall follow that one, of course, here on France 24. Now let's pick up on some more of the day's business news. And Air France KLM has narrowed its second quarter losses. The group made an operating loss of €66 million compared to 145 a year before. Ryanair has had a better day, though. First fiscal quarter profits were down 29% to just under €99 million.
Royal Bank of Scotland is facing a hefty fine over the interbank rate rigging scandal. The bailed out UK bank's chief executive made the admission during an interview with the Guardian newspaper. Rival Barclays was fined nearly £300 million for the scandal, and around 20 global banks are now involved in what's thought to be separate investigations over the fraud.
And the biggest trial to date in the smartphone and tablet copyright war starts later this Monday. Apple and Samsung are suing each other over patent infringements. The iPad maker wants a California court to award up to $2.5 billion in damages from Samsung. The two have spent months trying to ban sales of each other's products right around the world. That's the business for now. Owen back, of course, tomorrow morning, and more news coming up very shortly here on France 24. Do stay with us if you possibly can.
In Rajasthan, there is a school like no other. The students are all women, grandmothers from Asia, Africa and Latin America. Their home villages have no electricity. But soon they'll graduate as solar engineers and for the first time help their communities to cook, read and write after the sun sets. Join our reporters for a close-up look at India's Barefoot College. Today at 10:15 a.m. Paris time on France 24.